C'est bon? C'est bon? Ok, très bien. Je vais me mettre ici pour que mes collègues me voient. C'est pas parce que je veux absolument être là, mais c'est pour que nos collègues qui sont là me voient et pour que je les rassure un peu. I will do the same thing in English, so just a little bit of patience. Je souhaite d'abord faire un petit résumé de ce qui s'est passé ce matin. Nous avons eu, conformément au programme, l'ouverture qui nous a apporté des éléments qui nous ont mis de l'eau à la bouche pour la suite du colloque et pour les travaux en panel. Et bien sûr les deux conférenciers invités qui, chacun d'eux avec l'expertise spécifique, un collègue en sciences et droit, en sciences criminelles et droit qui il s'agit de Yann Biziou qui a parlé de la justice et des médias à travers les notions de secret et transparence. Et ensuite, le Patrick Calasson, le deuxième collègue, qui nous a proposé une modélisation pour comprendre comment fonctionnent les médias, la logique de fonctionnement des médias et la logique de fonctionnement de la justice, et pour voir comment concilier les deux afin de comprendre le phénomène et par la suite, bien sûr, de pouvoir l'appréhender et construire des scénarios de réponse et bien sûr dans le champ de la justice et le champ des médias. Sachant que si on retient la conclusion de Yann Biziou, les médias et la justice sont comme le chat et la souris. Donc une métaphore qu'on va peut-être, certains d'entre nous, à travers les communications et les propositions, on va rediscuter, revoir et pourquoi pas remettre en question pour arriver peut-être à d'autres conclusions. Alors, en matière d'organisation, ce que j'ai dit aux collègues tout à l'heure et ce que je vous propose, c'est d'écouter les trois premières présentations, les trois premières interventions, et ensuite vous pouvez bien sûr prendre des notes et noter bien vos questions pour avoir un temps de questions et réponses. Comme ça, on aura la possibilité d'avoir plusieurs perspectives, plusieurs résultats à notre disposition pour pouvoir mieux comprendre, mieux cerner le phénomène et mieux réagir scientifiquement dans ce contexte. So, thank you very much to our colleagues from Hungary, from Cyprus, from Turkey, from Brazil, for their presence in this international conference. Thank you to our colleagues. I already know, I'm thinking here at Monica and Doc, which is a colleague who works on the same axis as my main research axis, so it is a pleasure always to read Monica and to meet her in this kind of scientific events. I hope it is a second ComSymbol conference for you, Monica. I think I know you are frustrated because you can't answer, but you will have the opportunity later. This morning, the opening ceremony was marked by some important moments. Political one, of course, professional ones, and of course academic moments, scientific moments, scholarly moments, and the moment dedicated to the keynote addresses was very rich. The two keynote speakers, Yan Biziou, which is professor at Paul Valéry University, specialist in question of justice, law, and criminal sciences in media, of course, which is rapporteur at the French Parliament, and of course an expert in the field, presented some results of his research on the relationship between media and justice, and with some conclusions which will be perhaps discussed here in the panel. His conclusion was that the media and justice are like kitty and mouse. So a very interesting conclusion. And the keynote address of Patrick Alasson, which proposed the modelization via constructal theory for a better understanding of the relationship between the field of media and the field of justice. So I propose you to start this panel with three presentations, and after these presentations we will have a moment for questions and answers. So in this order I propose to Isabelle Huret to start the session. And then to Monica Andoc and Anife Erichen. I don't know if I pronounce well, so please excuse me in advance. Giacomo Boncompagni is not yet logged, and I propose to keep this order. Donc Isabelle Huret, vous avez la parole. Justice en France, filmer les procès pour donner confiance. Isabelle Huret est maître de conférence à l'Université de Franche-Comté, membre du laboratoire Charisme et aussi du laboratoire Eliade, et aussi membre associé du laboratoire Charisme. À vous la parole. Vous avez une quinzaine de minutes, voilà, et ensuite on continuera.
Voilà, est-ce que... Est-ce que ça fonctionne?
Oui, c'est bon.
Ok, super. Tout d'abord, je voudrais vraiment remercier les organisateurs et les organisatrices de ce colloque. Donc, vraiment, merci à vous et merci de me donner l'occasion de vous faire part de cette recherche donc, sur un programme télévisé qui s'appelle Justice en France. Donc, je m'excuse par avance, je parle extrêmement mal anglais, mais pour que nos collègues plus anglophones puissent suivre, j'ai fait la présentation en anglais. Voilà. Alors, hop. Tac, voilà. Donc, depuis octobre 2022, la chaîne de télévision France 3 propose un nouveau programme télévisé donc, intitulé Justice en France. Alors, il consiste en fait en des séquences d'audience décryptées ensuite en plateau par un présentateur et deux experts, donc un avocat ou une avocate et un ou une magistrate. Donc, son originalité, c'est son caractère officiel. En effet, Justice en France est produit dans le cadre d'une convention partenariale entre France Télévisions et le ministère de la Justice. Cette convention, elle a été signée dans le prolongement de la loi pour la confiance en l'institution judiciaire, votée en décembre 2021, et plus particulièrement son article 1er, autorisant sous condition l'enregistrement et la diffusion d'audience. Cette loi vise à résoudre, selon le ministre, le problème de la défiance des citoyens envers l'institution judiciaire. Avec cet article, il s'agit Avec cet article, il s'agit pour le ministre de permettre à la justice d'occuper le terrain médiatique, de se mettre en valeur et de gagner la reconnaissance de son rôle social et de sa légitimité auprès des citoyens. En effet, si la justice ne manque pas de visibilité, celle-ci est souvent dépréciative. Manque de moyens, souffrance des personnels, taxation de laxisme ou de lenteur, etc. La chancellerie veut donc déconstruire cet ordre du visible, selon les mots de Thomson, cette représentation négative et mieux maîtriser l'image publique de la justice. Dans ce contexte, nous proposons d'envisager l'article 1er de la loi ainsi que son programme Justice en France comme un instrument d'action publique. Cette notion est définie par Pierre Lascoum et Patrick Le Gallès ainsi. Un instrument d'action publique constitue un dispositif à la fois technique et social qui organise des rapports sociaux spécifiques entre la puissance publique et ses destinataires en fonction des représentations et des significations dont il est porteur. Donc l'instrument, dans notre cas, est de type informatif et communicationnel, puisqu'il s'agit d'éduquer les citoyens à la matière judiciaire. Alors, cependant, l'originalité de la situation réside dans le fait que la chancellerie ne contrôle pas complètement l'instrument. En effet, le ministère, pour le mettre en œuvre, doit faire avec des acteurs indépendants, l'autorité judiciaire, les médias et le public. Les deux premiers sont notamment susceptibles de défendre leurs intérêts et de se conformer à leurs propres contraintes. Les logiques judiciaires et médiatiques sont donc susceptibles de travailler l'instrument d'une manière inattendue. Donc pour cette communication, je vais suivre un plan très simple. Ça se déroule en 2 temps. Tout d'abord, je vais m'intéresser à l'article de loi et ensuite, j'analyserai les émissions. Donc, dans un premier temps, on va voir en quoi cet article est ancré dans la modernité. Donc, il y aura 3 points. Tout d'abord, en quoi consiste l'article? Alors, il permet l'enregistrement et la diffusion des audiences des juridictions administratives et judiciaires si le projet présente un intérêt public d'ordre pédagogique, informatif, culturel ou scientifique. La demande est faite par une équipe de production au ministère de la Justice qui rend un avis, mais le projet est ensuite validé ou non par le premier président de la Cour d'appel dont dépend la juridiction. C'est donc un juge du siège, un juge indépendant, qui accepte ou non le projet. Les conditions d'enregistrement sont strictes concernant le consentement, donc on peut flouter les visages, etc., en fonction de si l'audience était au départ publique ou non. Et puis aussi concernant les conditions de captation, notamment la discrétion. La diffusion ne peut avoir lieu qu'une fois les possibilités de recours épuisées et la rediffusion est rendue impossible au bout de 5 ans. Donc les émissions, une fois réalisées, sont visionnées par le ministère pour s'assurer du respect des droits fondamentaux des parties. Alors, deuxième point, les dimensions politiques de l'instrument. Comme tout instrument d'action publique, l'article de loi et les émissions qui en découlent véhiculent une certaine représentation des problèmes et sont porteurs de valeurs. En outre, ils sont révélateurs du cadre cognitif et normatif dans lequel l'action publique s'inscrit. Dans ce contexte, 3 éléments nous sont apparus significatifs. Tout d'abord, l'article de loi s'inscrit dans l'idée que l'on vit dans une société de l'image et que les processus de légitimation, comme les luttes pour la reconnaissance sociale, se font dans et via les médias. Ensuite, pour le ministère, la défiance des citoyens envers la justice, donc le problème, est causée en partie par un défaut de connaissance du fonctionnement de l'institution et de ses acteurs. Il veut rétablir la confiance par deux voies, par la découverte des pratiques professionnelles des magistrats, il y a vraiment l'idée de montrer la vérité du travail judiciaire, et par l'explicitation des valeurs et des principes qui expliquent les actes de justice et pour leur donner du sens. Donc on retrouve là 2 façons d'engager la confiance entre des citoyens et des organisations décrites par Lorenz et Kéré. Enfin, 3e élément, l'instrument comporte une certaine vision de la justice, de sa place dans la société et du lien qu'elle doit entretenir avec les citoyens. La justice est considérée comme opératrice du social et joue un rôle central dans la régulation des rapports sociaux. L'usager est mis au centre de l'attention et la justice ne pourra être légitime et crédible que si elle est proche des citoyens. Dernier point de la première partie, l'instrument n'est pas complètement maîtrisé. On l'a dit, le ministère ne contrôle pas l'instrument, il dépend pour et dans sa réalisation d'acteurs indépendants. Donc tout d'abord, on a les médias, puisque la réalisation, la diffusion des captations et leur financement sont réalisés par des acteurs médiatiques. De ce fait, premier élément, eh bien, les émissions sont susceptibles d'être gagnées par le sensationnalisme, puisque malgré la rigueur du cahier des charges, la logique médiatique veut que les programmes soient rentables et rassemblent un public conséquent. Deuxième problème, les émissions sont nécessairement construites. En effet, si les discours du ministre appuient sur la transparence et la vérité des audiences, toute émission engage sélection et montage. Deuxième acteur, on l'a vu, les projets de tournage sont validés par des magistrats indépendants. Or, nombre d'entre eux s'opposent à la médiatisation des audiences, et ce, pour plusieurs raisons. Tout d'abord, le risque du dévoiement des comportements des justiciables transformant les audiences en spectacle, le risque que les audiences deviennent les éléments d'une communication politique, et le désaccord avec l'idée que la justice doit faire œuvre de pédagogie. Enfin, les effets sur les citoyens sont difficilement évaluables. Hormis les mesures d'audience, le ministère n'aura que très peu d'informations sur le public réel des émissions et sur l'impact que cela aura sur la représentation de l'institution. Je commence donc maintenant la deuxième partie, donc plutôt sur les émissions. Donc début juillet, j'ai dénombré et visionné 6 émissions du programme Justice en France sur la base de l'INATEC. Alors il y a 3 points aussi dans cette deuxième partie. Tout d'abord, Justice en France se présente comme un programme exclusif de dévoilement sur la réalité du travail quotidien de la justice. L'exclusivité porte sur 2 aspects. Soit le fait que les audiences présentées sont d'habitude privées, comme les affaires familiales, soit le fait qu'elles concernent des pans judiciaires d'habitude boudés par les médias en raison de leur trivialité. Délits routiers, surendettement, contravention de 5e classe. Le programme s'ancre ainsi dans le quotidien. La justice est montrée comme un acteur social, régulatrice du vivre ensemble. En cela, le programme prolonge la parole ministérielle. Cependant, la visibilité du travail judiciaire permise par la captation d'audience a des limites. En effet, le programme se concentre sur ces audiences, mais elle ne reflète pas l'entièreté du travail judiciaire. Cet angle mort est pour partie pallié par les interventions des experts invités sur le plateau et les images de l'émission. Donc les experts racontent le travail préparatoire et subséquent aux audiences, et ce travail est perceptible pour le téléspectateur via les nombreux classeurs et papiers amassés sur les bureaux et étagères et manipulés par l'ensemble des protagonistes lors des audiences. Les audiences apparaissent alors comme un prétexte médiagénique pour évoquer les pratiques des acteurs de la justice dans la limite de la construction d'un récit mélioratif. Donc ensuite, on va voir comment le programme s'y prend pour donner confiance aux citoyens. Alors, il y a trois points. Tout d'abord, les téléspectateurs sont mis en situation de faire une expérience indirecte positive de la justice. L'expérience est permise car le programme focalise son attention sur des situations judiciaires que tout le monde pourrait vivre, comme le divorce, et aussi par la manière dont le présentateur implique les téléspectateurs quand il dit, par exemple, dans le premier épisode, cela pourrait être vous. Au cours de ces expériences indirectes, les magistrats sont montrés comme des professionnels rigoureux et humains. Ensuite, ces expériences sont complétées par des plateaux où le public, redevenu citoyen, a des explications. Celles-ci concernent les acteurs, les procédures, donc qui est qui fait quoi, comment, dans quel ordre, et le fonctionnement de l'application de la loi. Donc les interventions des magistrats donnent alors sens à la nature des peines et au temps judiciaire. Dans ce contexte, les magistrats apparaissent comme des experts pédagogues et ce statut est construit en discours par la présence d'un vocabulaire technique aussitôt rendu accessible pour le grand public. C'est vraiment très didactique. On repère ainsi de nombreuses occurrences d'élocution parce que, c'est-à-dire, donc, où je vous ai, par exemple, dans l'épisode 6, on peut dire, on entend le juge peut délibérer ce qu'on appelle sur le siège, c'est-à-dire instantanément. Les explications des magistrats agissent à un double niveau susceptible d'engendrer la confiance des citoyens. D'un côté, leur discours expose un savoir technique et établissent leur expertise, et cela est susceptible de leur conférer autorité et crédibilité. Et d'autre part, ils font preuve d'une bonne connaissance de la société, des justiciables et de leurs difficultés. L'expérience indirecte de la justice par les téléspectateurs est ainsi complétée par leur exposition à un discours clair et susceptible d'engendrer l'adhésion. Troisième point de cette deuxième partie, le dispositif et le présentateur sont gagnés progressivement par la logique médiatique. Côté dispositif, on remarque une évolution entre les 4 premiers et les 2 derniers épisodes, concernant leur structuration notamment. Les premiers sont rythmés par des alternances entre les audiences et le plateau. Chaque passage d'audience est décrypté par le présentateur et des experts. Ce sont eux qui disent qui est qui et qui expliquent les mots techniques. En revanche, lors des 2 derniers épisodes, le présentateur lance seul le programme au début de l'émission, le public est plongé dans les audiences et tout est décrypté à la fin par le présentateur et des experts. Cependant, pour que le public comprenne le sujet, les mots-clés, les phases du process, les acteurs, eh bien des encarts apparaissent sur l'écran avec les mots-clés, etc., pour donner des définitions en même temps qu'elles sont lues en voix off. Donc on voit que le dispositif médiatique, par ses possibilités techniques, se substitue progressivement aux interventions régulières des experts et donc la pédagogie se désincarne peu à peu. Dès lors, les échanges entre le présentateur et les experts ont moins pour objet de décrire et de répondre à des questions simples et vont s'orienter davantage sur les principes et le fonctionnement de la justice en général. Côté présentateur, il a un rôle central dans l'émission. Il distribue, organise, rythme le dialogue entre les invités, il donne le ton et indique les points à éclaircir. Si le cadrage est très majoritairement pédagogique, il tente à devenir un peu plus polémique dans le dernier épisode, s'inscrivant en cela dans une logique médiatique. En effet, au fur et à mesure des épisodes, la formulation des questions évolue. Ces dernières, de demandes d'explications simples, passent peu à peu à des demandes de justification. Ce glissement contraint les experts à se défendre et non plus à décrypter seulement les reportages. Par exemple, concernant la lenteur de la justice, dans le premier épisode, le présentateur s'étonne du délai entre le moment de l'accident, 2019, et le moment du jugement en appel, 2022. Et il dit « Pourquoi tout ce temps ?» Et dans l'épisode 6, la formulation est tout autre. On entend « Alors, tous ceux qui nous regardent doivent à juste titre s'interroger. On vient d'entendre des faits qui remontent à 2019, à 2020, pour une audience qui a eu lieu en décembre 2022. Attendre 3 ans pour juger des faits assez simples, c'est pas très raisonnable. Elles ont quand même l'air assez simples, ces histoires, il n'y a pas d'instruction là. C'est ça, la lenteur de la justice ?» Donc on voit que ces formulations appellent des réponses plus virulentes des magistrats qui sortiraient alors de leur posture d'experts pour devenir défenseurs de leur institution. Le présentateur s'éloigne ainsi de la logique pédagogique pour s'approcher de la logique médiatique, selon laquelle tout programme doit capter l'attention du public, attiser le débat pour faire de l'audience. En conclusion, dans cette étude, j'ai essayé de montrer en quoi l'article 1er de la loi pour la confiance en l'institution judiciaire ainsi que les émissions Justice en France produites dans son sillage constituent un instrument d'action publique. Cependant, proposer un tel instrument ne revient-il pas à dépolitiser le problème de la défiance des citoyens envers l'institution judiciaire? Même si le ministre s'en défend, notamment parce que la loi contient d'autres dispositions plus judiciaires, considérer la défense des citoyens comme le résultat partiel d'un problème de communication peut sembler réducteur. Voilà, donc je vous remercie pour votre attention. J'arrête le partage.
Merci. Merci beaucoup Isabelle Huret pour votre apport, pour cette présentation qui évoque une partie des questions que les participants au colloque et les conférenciers invités ont évoqué justement dans leur exposé durant les conférences plénières. Et sur justement l'incertitude sur les limites des territoires occupés par la justice et par les médias. Ces limites, ces frontières qui aujourd'hui sont complexes, difficilement traçables, justement parce que le fait qu'on vit dans une société qui médiatise tout, c'est-à-dire une société où chaque citoyen a ses propres médias, c'est-à-dire les réseaux sociaux numériques, qui fait que chacun de nous peut se transformer finalement dans un participant à cette conversation mondiale sur la justice, si on parle de la question liée à la justice. Alors, dans ce contexte, la justice ne retrouve plus ces frontières comme avant, et ces frontières sont imprégnées par ce fonctionnement, et puis ce fonctionnement médiatique qu'on appelle les logiques des médias, et de là toute la difficulté que vous avez saisie en présentant en même temps l'effort de la justice de se rendre transparente et accessible, et ensuite le fait que les médias finalement s'emparent de cet effort et qui devient à travers des produits médiatiques comme l'émission à laquelle vous avez fait référence, qui constitue votre étude de cas et qui montre que finalement l'action juridique peut se trouver finalement détournée et assise sur des valeurs qui ne sont pas forcément celles de la justice, même si c'est pour la bonne cause. On va revenir sur cela. Je vais maintenant donner la parole à I will invite Monica and Doc to take the floor. Monica and Doc will present a paper which is very interesting because it's about kind of effort to theoretically ground the question related to the justice and media. A paper on interactions between the practices of the first state and the fourth estate from the perspective of the media research history through the work of Lippmann, a classical in communication studies. So, Monica, you have the floor. The floor is yours. Est-ce qu'elle a entendu ou pas? Est-ce que... Je pense qu'il y a eu un problème parce que... Oui, mais là, je parlais, apparemment, personne n'a rien entendu. So, I think you didn't hear anything. So, I invite Monica and Doc to present the paper. And thank you, Isabelle. Merci beaucoup, Isabelle Huret, pour la présentation. Quelqu'un ici a coupé le micro et c'est pour ça que vous ne m'avez pas entendu. C'est là que je réalise. So, merci beaucoup encore une fois. On va revenir après.
Good afternoon. I would like to share my slide. Okay, can you see the slide?
Yes.
Thank you, thank you. So, dear conference, dear audience, thank you very much for the opportunity to participate in the 6th International ComSymbol Conference. And I'm sorry that I can only do this online. I'm Monika Andok from Hungary, from Pázmány Péter Catholic University. The title of my presentation is Interaction between the practices of the third estate and the fourth estate from the perspective of the media research history through the work of Walter Lippmann. Yes. During the lecture, I will first present Lippmann's intellectual sources, both in terms of politics and jurisprudence. After that, starting in the 1920s, I explore how Lippmann conceptualized the relationship between the news media, public opinion, governance, and judiciary in his works. And finally, I will touch on the criticism of Lippmann's work in this direction. Let's start with an analytical presentation of Walter Lippmann intellectual sources. Walter Lippmann was an American journalist, commentator, writer, and public intellectual. He completed his university studies at Harvard University, where he was influenced by such instructors as William James and George Santayana. Lippmann first wrote regularly for the Boston Common starting in 1910, and in 1911 he became an assistant to Lincoln Stephens at Everybody's Magazine. The young Lippmann advanced from journalist to editor in less than a year. Together with Stephens, they uncovered a corruption case in Greenwich, Connecticut, and thus creates the foundation of investigative journalism. Incidentally, this is what Lippmann's first 2 volumes, Preface to Practice, published in 1913, and Drift and Mastery, published in 1914, are about. Even in the letter, the question of the public opinion is discussed, which Lippmann identified as a group that can have a serious, decisive influence of governance. Oliver Wendell Holmes, the Supreme Court judge and later good friend, writes about the book. Do you know Walter Lippmann's Drift and Mastery book, Preface to Politics and Drift and Mastery? He is young and one thing at times proceeding on in adequately founded faith, but Lord, how good a writer! What disconstant and impalpable and enumeration of infinitisimals. During the analysis of Lippmann's works, the researchers placed the greatest emphasis on his relationship with politics and politicians. However, Lippmann maintained an equally close, even closer relationship with several key U.S. Supreme Court judges. He and Felix Frankfurter were roommates in 1910 and were bound by lifelong friendship. In this period between 1910 and 1930, there were many Supreme Court judgments that played a role in removing the limits of freedom of speech. For example, clear and present danger, Schenck versus United States in 1919, Sacco and Vanzetti case in 1926. And in these cases, Lippmann presented Holmes' position in his articles, regardless of whether it was the majority or minority position during the judgment of the 9-member Supreme Court. The relationship between Holmes and Lippmann were characterized by mutual respect and appreciation. American scholar Snyder writes about this. Holmes' strengths were law and philosophy. Lippmann's was politics. They praised each other's work. Holmes delighted in Lippmann's visits, in spite of their different generational perspective about war. Holmes admired Lippmann's next book, The Stakes of Diplomacy. Lippmann thought Holmes' critique of Atlantic Monthly article that became his most famous book, Public Opinion. Holmes never stopped reading Lippmann's book. Lippmann, in turn, idolized Holmes' writing. As for the greatest man I have personally even known, apart from Einstein himself, whom I had met only once for a short time, I should perhaps say Mr. Justice Holmes. So we can see, therefore, that Lippmann's principles in relation to journalism, freedom of speech, democracy were influenced more by his friends in the judiciary and justice and less by his acquaintance with politicians. Now let's move on the second part of presentation, which presents Lippmann's theory and ideas regarding the relationship between government, judiciary, public opinion, and the press. In August 1922, Lippmann submitted the manuscript of Public Opinion to his publisher and set off a longer European trip with his wife. When they returned from the trip in January 1922, Lippmann took his new job as editor-in-chief of the New York World, and then his volumes was published by the Harcourt and Brace publisher. He began his book this way. The analyst of public opinion must begin then by recognizing the triangular relationship between the scene of action, the human picture of that scene, and the human response to that picture working itself out upon the scene of action. It is like a play suggested to the actors by their own experience, in which the plot is transacted in the real lives of the actors and not merely in their stage parts. If we take a closer look at the logical path that he takes as an author in his book Public Opinion, we see that approaches the question of public opinion is in a functionalist way. In a normative sense, the function of public opinion would be to give the government during the state decision-making a fact-based, well-founded, mature, and carefully considered proposal for action. Judgment appears primarily in the text as a personal judgment. However, the volume does not consist of anything other than providing why public opinion is not suitable above all for this, for making the correct judgment. Lippmann's argument also touches epistemological issues. It is not possible for citizens to get to know the world around them. More precisely, it requires the help of the press. At this point, according to Lippmann, we encounter two problems, one of which that the citizens who make up public opinion will not become omnicompetent citizens, even as a result of consuming news. The other is the operation of the press, news editing. The newspaper in the 1920s was not suitable for unbiased reporting on world events. Lippmann sees the latter problem as solvable if the standard of journalism is raised and turned into a scientific one. Eric Pariser summarized his opinion about Lippmann. Over the next decade, Lippmann advanced his line of thought. Public opinion, Lippmann included, was too malleable. People were easily manipulated and led by false information. In 1925, he wrote The Phantom Public, an attempt to dismantle the illusion of rational, informed cooperation once and for all. Lippmann argued against the prevailing democratic mythology in which informed citizens capably made decisions about the major issues of the day. The only competent citizens that such a system required were nowhere to be found. At best, ordinary citizens would be trusted to vote out the party that was in power if it doing too poorly the real work of governance. Lippmann argued should be entrusted to insider experts who had education, expertise to what was really going on, writes Pariser in 2011. But let's go in line. Let us first look at the problem of experience as discussed by Lippmann. And so before we involve ourselves in the jungle of studies about the innate differences of man, we shall do to fix our attention upon extraordinary differences in what men know of the world. Using the works of Graham Wallas and Sigmund Freud, Lippmann presented in his book the characteristics of multitude of pseudo-environments, different from the real outside world. People find it difficult to understand the complexity of the world, and because of this they use stereotypes. Most of the time, Lippmann explained, it is not the case that we see something for the first time and then define it, but rather than we define something first and then we see and identify the phenomenon with the definition. we shall assume that each man does it based not on direct and certain knowledge, but on pictures made by himself or given to him. The American media historian Citron summarized it as follows. Lippmann criticized the traditional theory of democracy related to public opinion and the concept of omnicompetent citizens. He claimed that modern communication creates ubiquitous pseudo-environments and thus prevent ordinary citizens from achieving fact-based political decision-making. He trusted in the interposition of expert between the public and the citizens and decision makers. Lippmann characterized public opinion itself with the terms such as it based on misunderstanding rather than real knowledge, it is based on prejudice, it is based on stereotypes, and it is characterized by non-homogeneous, variously refractive and selective exposure. However, he also aware the press reports are not the same as the truth. As he writes, news and truth are not the same thing and must be clearly distinguished. The function of news is to signalize an event. The function of truth is to bring to light the hidden facts, to set them into relation with each other and make a picture of reality on which man can act. Lippmann's position and viewpoint are described as elitist, anti-democratic, skeptical, disillusionist, post-war, and pessimistic. At the same time, according to Italian media researcher Regalzi, Lippmann did not really attack democracy, rather he was a true democrat who argued for the need to think beyond the classical formulation of democratic theory. Michael Scotton called this the democratic realism that emerged in the 1920s, and this democratic realism found his most prominent spokesman in Walter Lippmann. And now I would like to say a few words about the critical approaches to Lippmann's work based on 4K scientists and publicists, John Dewey, Noam Chomsky, Tom Wolfe, and James Carey. Let's start with John Dewey. Dewey, defining American scientist of the first half of the 20th century, the father of pragmatism, wrote a review of public opinion in the New Republic a few months after the book was published. In a summary, he wrote, the presentation is so objective and projective that one almost finished the book without realizing that it is perhaps the strongest indictment of democracy as currently conceived. Dewey wrote that Lippmann provides a ruthless and realistic analysis of the limitation of the images in our head and our environment. While Lippmann considered the press to be inappropriate for the task of informing, enlightening, and guiding the public, Dewey argued against him that the press should continue to act as the link between the government and the people. He also believes that many of Lippmann's criticism of the press do hold up, but this means that it is the press that needs reform and not public opinion. Of course, Dewey himself expressed his views in his 1927 volume, The Public and Its Problem. Its content can be read as a long, optimistic response to Lippmann's theory of democracy and public opinion. The next reviewer was Noam Chomsky. In 1988, Chomsky brought together with Edward Herman, Manufacturing Consent, the Political Economy of Mass Media, a propaganda model of how the media works, was described. Chomsky criticized Lippmann for his journalistic approach. to the expert class and to the elite. But he also sees that in the decades since public opinion was published, this attitude was not only characteristic of Lippmann. He writes that Lippmann's thought on these issues come from shortly after the First World War, when he impressed the liberal intellectual community by serving as a faithful and helpful interpreter in the greatest mission ever undertaken by an American president. The undertaking was none other than Woodrow Wilson's Peace Without Victory program. The president, with help of liberal intellectuals, imposed his will on reluctant or indifferent majority. The third critic was Tom Wolfe. Tom Wolfe, born in 1930, he is credited with creating the new journalism trends in the United States, which started in 1960s. He believed that journalism cannot be objective, and terms such as truth, reality, and objectivity are meaningless. His journalistic principle is narration instead of information transmission, intuition instead of analysis, people instead of things, style instead of statistics. It is therefore clearly visible that he not only distanced himself from the ideal of objectivity, which Lippmann stated as a standard, but also directly denied its feasibility. It is no coincidence that Tom Wolfe, who reviewed Lippmann's work in 1972, did not find his journalistic style sympathetic and worth following. He wrote in New York Magazine that the only form of reporting he can recall about Lippmann in the past 35 years is nothing more than a few red carpet appearances at the president's, where he sat on a soft armchair and personally swallowed the politicians' lies instead of reading them in the New York Times. The next reviewer is James Carey. Carey criticized Lippmann for questioning the competence of mass public participation in democracy and for considering mass communication research to fall under the umbrella of quantitative studies. Carey states that from the 20th, the public was conceptually evacuated and decline of the public sphere began. Moreover, during this period, not only the intellectual works of the public sphere, but also the public itself disappeared. Carey also blames Lippmann for this, characterizing his views as an anti-democratic elitist approach when he says Lippmann actually took the public out of politics and politics out of public life. According to Carey, however, journalism and democracy are two names for the same things. Without the institution of democracy, journalists are reduced to propagandists or entertainment workers. Without good quality journalism, there is no democracy, but in the same way, if there is no democracy, there is no journalism. With regard to Lippmann, we find not only analyses that criticize public opinion, but also these that question Lippmann's perception of the role of journalist and the way he behaved as a journalist. These criticisms have a close thematic connection to the issues of the relationship between journalism and power. During Lippmann's journalistic activity, the analysis says he did not maintain a critical distance from power, as he was an advisor to many presidents and had access to the inner circles of government decision-making as well as to the judiciary. For example, his relationship with Roosevelt, Wilson, and Holmes and Frankfurter. In the later stages of his career, Lippmann reconsidered the relationship between journalists and those in power. By the late 1950s, he already believed that journalists should provide citizens with the information they need to decide how they want to be governed. This is our work. We have a right to be proud of it and to be happy that it is our work, he said in 1959 in his speech at the National Press Club organized for his 70th birthday. In 1964, he said the following in a television interview. There are certain rules in the relationship between journalists and high-ranking officials that must be observed. There must always be a certain distance between high-ranking public officials and journalists. It wouldn't say a wall or a fence, but an airspace that's very necessary. So in conclusion, my presentation showed how the idea of separation of branches of power appeared in an early period of media research in the work of Walter Lippmann between two world wars, while the matured his inside as a public intellectual, as a political journalist. He maintained a very close and friendly relationship with leading politicians and was even an advisor to several presidents of the United States. What is even more important from the point of view of present topic is that not only did we not find such close relationship between the government and the media for some, but also the relationship between media and judiciary. From the evaluation of the era and Lippmann's work, it can be seen that this closeness and relationship between the key representatives of the branches of power in the period between 1920 and 1950 was not considered problematic by the press or other branches of the power. Its problematic nature was only highlighted in media research from the 1960s, both from the side of media sociology and from the side of cultural studies. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you very much, Monica and Doc. Do you hear me now? There was a problem previously. Through Lippmann case, Monica and Doc's presentation highlighted the idea that the relationship between media and justice is possible. She highlighted the idea also that they can function in an interconnected manner. This is very interesting because this presentation it's kind of a complement of the presentation of Isabelle Huret. So we'll have the opportunity to come back later in the section questions and answers. So I invite right now. Sorry, I'm on. I invite right now Hanif Erishen to present the paper on semiotic analysis of UKIP Leave campaign's Turkish migrant Brexit, rhetoric Brexit, but not as presented. I don't know, you hear us, Hanife? Sorry, I don't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Okay. No, I'm trying to. Oh, sorry. Sorry. So it's not Hanife was connected by right now. I don't see. So okay. So I invite Gergely Ferenc Lendvand, because Hanife is not yet connected. So yes, you are connected, sorry. Okay, Hanife Erisen, you have the floor is yours, sorry.
If you couldn't hear me, I'm going to start sharing my slides, if that's okay.
Okay.
Can you tell me if you can see my slides, please? Can you see my slides?
No, we can't see it. Now it's okay. Yeah, now it's good.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, then. So I'm going to share with you a research that I conducted in relation to part of the Brexit campaign. And there was in particular some posters that were commissioned. So I did a semiotic and a visual frame analysis in relation to the Turkish migrant posters that were commissioned by UKIP. So I want to share some of the information in relation to that research with you. So, beginning with Brexit, on the 23rd of June in 2016, the United Kingdom went to referendum, and they basically democratically decided that they wanted to divorce from their relationship with the EU. Now, following the campaigning during the lead up to Brexit, and Brexit itself, following this, there was a lot of debate, academic research, and media conversation in relation to the campaigning itself. On the majority side, while the media focused on the lack of information that was disseminated to the public in making an informed decision in relation to Brexit and the impact and the pros and cons, much of the academic analysis focused on what was said and how it was said. And on both sides of the spectrum, both Leave and Remain, there was a huge focus in relation to migrancy. And this was very prevalent within the campaigning. So when we look at some of the existing literature in relation to the Brexit coverage, it was found that much of the media coverage was concerned about the free movement of EU nationals, and it encouraged migrants and how the EU European Union encouraged migrants from the EU nations to live in the UK. Such coverage was disparaging in nature, which resulted in racially motivated violence and discrimination towards non-British individuals in the UK. A majority, as I said earlier, of the Brexit debate was surrounding race and migrancy, and surrounding questions about nation and nationhood. Powell was said in his research, the decision to leave the EU has been aligned by a discourse of nativist nationalism and attempts to re-entrench an authoritarian conservative hegemony. They found that there was basically, in a nutshell, anti-immigrant prejudice. Of all the campaign efforts, however, that was made from either side, either spectrum, the one rhetoric that generally received the most media reaction and scholarly attention was UKIP's, which is the United Kingdom Independence Party's, campaigns regarding migrancy, one of which was in relation to Turkish migrancy. So UKIP is actually quite a small political party that doesn't have many spaces in Parliament. However, when it came to the campaigning to leave the European Union, their posters, their campaigning, their rhetoric shouted the loudest. So this is just an example of one of the posters. So that very large billboard in the UK. So UKIP, despite not being a dominant party, certainly dominated the attention during the Brexit campaign. And they made 7 visuals, 7 posters in total about Turkish migrancy. And they based their campaign on this Turkish migrancy rhetoric. UKIP utilized the Turkish ethnicity already loaded with negative connotations and presented that they were certainly joining the EU. Now, this is quite important because at the time, as we know, Turkey wasn't about to join the EU. There were discussions surrounding opening talks around membership, but the way the UKIP presented this in their rhetoric was that Turkey is joining the EU and what this means for the British people, British public. So based on this study endeavoured to perform a visual frame analysis on 3 of the 7 posters. The reason why we chose 3 is because the other 7 were very similar to the existing 3 that we chose. So I guess the findings we find on this 3 posters can be appropriated to the other posters as well. What we wanted to do was to ascertain the rhetorical elements and see if self and others played a role in influence and impacting the decisions of the British public when voting for whether to stay in the EU or not. We utilised Rodriguez and Dimitrova's 4 levels of visual frame analysis to look at the semiotic elements of the 3 posters and to also look at the ideological under-elements of the posters. Based on this, these were our research questions. We wanted to find out the rhetorical elements and frames of the 3 visuals, the application of any ideologies that was observed within the rhetoric, and what possible interpretations of the posters can be derived at by the audience, keeping in mind the socio-political and the socio-economic climate prevalent at the time, but obviously more so the socio-political here. These are the 3 posters. I don't know if you can see them very well, but we're going to see them clearer shortly. As I'm going through the findings, you will have larger pictures to look at. What's important to note here is the pre-Brexit socio-political climate in the UK, and other research that's been performed has actually found, as we know, within politics and voting and elections, immigration is a factor that can be influential in voter decisions. And we know now, through other research, it played a pivotal role on the Brexit decision. Now, what we also have known from previous research is that breakdown in trust in the political sphere is a crucial aspect of structure between citizens and the government. So when there's a breakdown of trust, then the public feels like they need to act autonomously and that they need to deal with this problem themselves because they cannot trust their government to do so. So when we look at the case of the pre-Brexit socio-political climate in the UK, we will see from the 3 points below that the atmosphere was ripe for UKIP to make their case with relation to migrants due to a breakdown in the political trust across the nation and existing anxieties regarding migrancy. So the 3 prevalent issues within the British political climate was, number 1, the then Home Secretary Theresa May made some pledges relating to migrancy, but she failed to deliver on them. And because of her failure, it created some anxieties across the public. Number 2, there was already existing concerns with relation to migrancy, and the British media exasperated these. And number 3, further immigration-related concern developed with UKIP's Brexit rhetoric, where they emphasised that unelected EU bureaucrats are dictating UK laws and policies, particularly in relation to immigration. So this was just boiling away across the British public and was making the situation ripe for UKIP and other Leave campaigners to take advantage of and exploit. So what we do know is that the media and language has power. So it wasn't very difficult for, and UKIP didn't have to make very sophisticated posters to put through to the public and exasperate the existing anxieties. So we know that the media plays a pivotal role in shaping public opinion. And we know that media content can be tainted with ideology. Now, we also know the existence of the self and other, where words, concepts, and symbols can establish positive and negative hierarchy between the East and West. And we already know that the East has been appropriated with negative connotations, or in this sense, Turkey. And these representations have been disseminated to the British society in particular for decades. And there's a lot of scholarly research and the literature proving this. So when we move forward, we can see that this discourse is frequent within the mass media, and it is a meeting of ideology and communication, textually interweaving ideologies that the masses take on as truth, accept as factual, and that they use to construct an image of events and places. So in this case, these ideologies in relation to the Turkish nation and negative connotations associated with them was already prevalent and was a foundation in relation to the Turkish ethnicity already. And we see there's a lot of scholarly work where the Turkish has been represented as the other in Western news text and in British news text in particular. This is due to their Islamic faith, a legacy inherited from their Ottoman heritage, as well as their Arab, Muslim, and Middle Eastern associations. Turkey and the Turkish identity are often represented in the media as backwards, Oriental, and thus different from the European spirit, with their Islamic identity highlighted frequently. Turkey's large population is often represented as both a handicap and a danger, with this overcrowded country presented as poor and culturally alien. We're going to see these. So what's interesting is these findings that I've only mentioned a few of here from previous scholarly articles, we're going to actually see interlaced in the visuals that UKIP commissioned. As a method, as we know, visuals are devices that frame rhetorical tools such as symbols, metaphors, and depictions, which graphically encapsulate the essence of events and issues. It is in this way that messages become easier to understand and remember. This is because visuals help render a large amount of detail into practical frameworks that are relevant and appropriate to people's understanding. So the understanding that we can get through language, we can get extremely quick through visuals. And those visuals don't need to be complicated. They can be extremely simply put to us. So moving on to my findings. This is one of the posters. This is one of the first posters that we analyzed. We're looking at the colors, the arrows, the maps that have been utilized. And I'm going to talk about these with you bit by bit. So in this map, if you have noticed, they've used blue for the UK, red for Turkey, but they've also pointed out Syria and Iraq. Now, the blue in the UK arouses nationalist feelings because of the blue in the British flag. If you've noticed, they completely grayed out Europe, making it look like that Europe is not part of the equation. The way they have depicted this matter is that the question is between UK and Turkey. They have simplified the problem. They have said Europe isn't relevant here anymore. The matter is between Turkey and the UK. And by using red for Turkey, which will symbolize the red in the Turkish flag, the red also for the British public arouses feelings of danger or alert. This danger and alert is exasperated by the arrows which are used that go from Turkey to the UK. And in actual fact, these arrows are used in war films, old war films. And in particular, there's a British drama called Dad's Army, and it was used in the beginning theme tune of that. So when British people will see these arrows, they will remember war or danger because of these arrows being utilized in war films and a very well-known British drama. It utilizes existing ideologies in relation to the Arabs and Muslims because Syria and Iraq has also been utilized, and it's actually saying that Britain's new border is with Syria and Iraq because they're insinuating that Turkey is definitely going into the EU. The application of this ideology would arouse fears across the public because immigrants have negative connotations associated with them anyway, and Syrian and Iraqi immigrants would especially.
Please try to be more concise, please, because we don't have transfer the time allocated. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I will be very quick. I'll go on to the next poster then. So the next poster, again, the blue and the red are being used in the same way. The arrows are being used in the same way. The grey of Europe is omitting Europe from the equation, arousing of danger. But by using buttons saying yes or no, it's like saying yes to coming out of the EU and no to staying into the EU. So using these buttons is simplifying the problem of Brexit for the British public. This is another form here. Again, blue, red, grey. EU has been omitted from this equation. The red and the blue buttons again are simplifying the problem for the British public. Here, as immigration is a concern for British people, they would not want to share the country's wealth, which is a larger phallus-looking bar of blue. They don't want to share that with the Turkish nationals, and this has been, the colours are associating what goes where and creating a divide. So to conclude, accordingly, this study found that the visuals utilise existing ideologies in relation to the Turk and immigration, springboarding their rhetoric of an existing political climate and anxieties relation to immigration. The graphical conventions presented within each of the visuals engage with existing connotations and ideologies upon two levels. First, the use of arrows and human figures in figure 1 and 2, and the text in figures 2 and 3, stipulating that Turkey's 76 million are joining the EU and would have visa-free travel, arouse existing anxieties in relation to immigration. The UK political climate was already abreast with debates, issues and anxieties surrounding immigration. With the atmosphere right, the UKIP applied a scenario raising the emotion of fear in the audience to persuade their decision in leaving the EU. As a second conclusion, they utilised discourse relating to Turkey was an easy target for the Leave campaign, such as the map of Turkey in all three figures. In addition to the above two ways in which the posters may have instilled emotions of fear, the posters have also produced feelings of patriotism with the use of the colour blue. The use of grey for Europe gives the impression of irrelevance. So Europe was omitted. And finally, the idea the UKIP Leave campaign is attempting to reduce and simplify the complex Brexit decision is enhanced by the yes-no buttons, as if to say no to this visual is to say no to a future with the EU. And this was present in Brexit, and we see that this is prevalent within media now still. Even with what's going on in Palestine right now, we see media narratives that are connected to Palestinians and connected to Israel. There's a lot of self and other dichotomy continuing today with conflicts that we're seeing today. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening.
Do you listen? 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 Do you... Thank you very much. Without delay, we will go further to the questions. Yes, of course. So I invite colleagues to ask questions. J'invite les collègues à poser des questions pour les trois premiers panélistes. So I invite you to ask questions for the three panelists. Monica Andoc, Isabelle Huret et Anifé Rissen. Colleagues from the audience, des collègues qui sont ici dans la salle. Oui.
Bonjour tout le monde. Je suis professeur Jalila Sbehi, Université Hassan II Casablanca, Faculté des lettres Paul Mohammedia, département d'anglais, laboratoire communication, interculturalité et modernité. Je remercie beaucoup mes collègues de Rabat qui m'ont adressé l'invitation pour assister à cette grande rencontre, à ce colloque sixième, comme je vois, et auquel je vois que des gens de renommée nationale et internationale sont présents. Et vraiment, je suis très honorée d'être parmi eux. J'avais des réactions ce matin, un petit feedback par rapport à ce qui a été dit ce matin par nos collègues venus des grandes universités, surtout de la France. Et ça a été surtout en relation à la démocratie. Quand on parle de cette relation dialectique entre les médias et la justice, là, on est dans un niveau très haut de démocratie. Quand on ne souffre pas de la censure, dont souffrent les médias à l'Orient, au tiers-monde, on a droit de comparer les médias et justice aux chats et aux petits chiens. Mais chez nous, c'est un rêve de voir cette ouverture entre la justice et les médias, alors que dans le tiers-monde, c'est la justice qui intervient parfois pour oppresser, pour exercer son pouvoir sur les médias. Et pas mal de journalistes, de gens très connus dans le domaine des médias se retrouvent même en prison parfois. Ça c'est une chose que je voulais noter. Donc, ma question était, est-ce que cette relation entre médias et justice, est-ce que les Occidentaux arrivent à la voir dans ce contexte de démocratie? Ça a été l'une de mes questions. Puis dans ce famel bien réussi, même si le public n'est pas vraiment de masse, je suis interpellée un peu par la dernière intervention de professeur Andok Monikia. Désolée si j'arrive pas à prononcer son nom, mais j'aimerais bien m'adresser en anglais, si possible. Sorry? Je ne peux pas vous entendre, il y a un problème. Non, c'est Monica Andok, non? Qui a parlé du Brexit, non? Ok, son style que je m'adresse. I'll try to address her in English, just to speak on the same meaning, just to speak the same language that she used. I'll wait for the Eden to finish. Okay. Okay, so she spoke about that polemics around the Brexit, meaning the United Kingdom leaving the European Union, and she spoke also about Turkey, but she did not raise the problem of religion and extremism. I think that's the reason why Turkey was refused and rejected from the European Union was not on the basis of problems related to migration more than on the basis of religion and creed. Then the United Kingdom, as we know, and where we know that the power of media is one of the basics of the strength of this big nation that is the United Kingdom. We know that the United Kingdom has that pride of being, believing that it could exist in full autonomy, not to share its its different sources of wealth with the different, let's say, nations within the European Union. My hope is that our friends in the West, in European countries, could attempt to raise such polemics, meaning of such weight. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup. Donc j'invite peut-être Isabelle Huret qui a entendu la prise de parole en français et ensuite la question qui a été adressée à Anif Erissen.
Très mal compris. Vous pouvez la reformuler. Je suis désolée. En fait, il y a deux micros ouverts. On a un gros écho. Du coup, j'ai pas du tout bien entendu.
I would love to answer, but I apologize. I didn't really understand. There was a lot of feedback. I didn't really understand what she was saying from the microphone. So I can't really respond to her statement or her question. Can somebody maybe summarize it for me so I can respond to it?
Okay, so our colleagues ask you questions about the dimension of religion in your presentation. Wasn't evoked at all. You talked about politics, democracy, and media, but what about religion? The role of religion?
If I have understood correctly, and forgive me if I haven't, the involvement of religion in this is that what we looked for in these posters that was commissioned by UKIP was the use of existing rhetoric and existing ideology within the rhetoric, I should say. So basically, as you may have noticed, the posters were extremely simply made by UKIP, but they were very impactful in the UK at the time, and they were shared and reshared, and they had very many supporters, and it did impact upon the voters' choice, their decision in the UK. So what we wanted to do was to evaluate the rhetorical elements, and we used a methodology that allowed us to evaluate the underlying ideological elements that may be prevalent. And in order to do that, we would need to look at the existing literature in relation to those elements that are present. And within the elements, there was the Turkish identity and there was Middle Eastern identity, because there was the use, other than the UK, there was the use of Syria, Turkey, and Iraq. Now, what we would do is we look at all the prevalent and previous research in relation to these identities and ethnicities, and we take out from them what the findings were. And we have found that predominantly these three identities were represented as an other to a self, and the elements of those othering was religion, historical ties to the Arab or the Ottoman, and the other elements that are connected to these, the religious and the ethnic aspect, which is barbaric, backwards, dangerous, and other connotations that are connected. So what we did is we relied on previous research from other scholars to define what the elements are connected to these identities, and showed, particularly obviously to the British public in this case, and we said, well, these are the connotations that would be aroused and the thoughts that would be aroused by the British public when they see that they're going to become neighbours with the Turks or with Syria or with Iraq. And that's how we can use that bridge to establish what interpretations would be established. I hope I was able to answer your question.
Thank you very much. We have to have more time for the colleagues, so online participants could also address questions. I have a question which will synthesize a little bit your intervention in French. A question for Isabelle Hure and for Monica Andok, the same question. Ma question est-il possible de vraiment préserver les spécificités du champ juridique face aux médias sans le trahir, car la justice médiatisée semble perdre la maîtrise de son champ d'action traditionnel, c'est-à-dire les faits. Is it really possible to truly preserve the specificity of the justice field in the face of the media without betraying it, because mediatized justice seems to lose control of its traditional field of action, the facts, which is replaced right now by the sensational, peopleization, over-politicization, spectacularization, and so on. Thank you for Monica and for Isabelle.
Je commence à répondre, ça va? Ok, bon. En tout cas, merci pour votre question. En fait, je répondrai uniquement dans le cadre de la recherche que j'ai présentée là et pas en général. Et effectivement, la question de la préservation de la spécificité du champ, mais aussi du processus, en fait, du processus du jugement. C'est un énorme enjeu et c'est là-dessus que sont extrêmement frileux beaucoup de magistrats, de juges. En fait, pour l'instant, c'est un programme qui est très jeune, donc il est difficile d'avoir beaucoup de recul. Mais pour l'instant, ce qui caractérise vraiment le programme, c'est d'être centré sur le fonctionnement. C'est-à-dire que au moment des plateaux, du décryptage des audiences, à aucun moment on ne parle du fond des affaires, hormis si ce fond présente une caractéristique spécifique, comme par exemple le divorce de citoyens britanniques en France. Ce qui se fait en fait, mais on rentre jamais dans le fond des affaires, donc les faits ne sont pas tordus si on veut le voir comme ça. Cependant, je terminerai là-dessus pour laisser ma collègue pouvoir répondre. Ce qui est intéressant, c'est que dans certains médias, puisque je me suis aussi intéressée à la façon dont les médias parlent de ce programme, en fait, on voit que la rédaction de l'article est suffisamment floue pour laisser la porte ouverte à un intérêt pour des procès beaucoup plus sensationnels. Et donc, il y a certains médias qui, en fait, attendent que le cahier des charges soit moins strict ou qu'il y ait moins de contrôle ou ce genre de choses pour pouvoir aller faire plus de sensationnel. Donc, pour l'instant, si je veux résumer ma réponse, pour l'instant, j'ai pas l'impression que la justice perd perd le rapport avec les faits parce que le système de captation est extrêmement discret. Il n'y a personne, en fait, il n'y a que les caméras fixes à l'intérieur des salles d'audience. Il n'y a pas de caméraman. C'est fait dans un camion à l'extérieur du tribunal. Mais on ne sait pas ce que ça va devenir, en fait. Et c'est ça le gros risque avec ce programme. Voilà, j'espère que j'ai répondu à la question.
Ok, je peux. Oui, voilà. Bonjour à tout le monde. Voilà, sans l'écho, c'est mieux. On va couper de l'autre côté. Voilà. Bonjour, je vais faire une question rapide. Ça convient à tout le monde en français? Vous voulez que je... ça ira peut-être plus rapidement. Marie-Ève Saint-Georges, moi je suis enseignant-chercheur à l'Université catholique de Lille. Je voulais juste avoir un petit complément par rapport à votre présentation, Isabelle Huret, parce que vous avez mentionné, vous sembliez dire, mais je voulais juste m'assurer d'avoir bien compris, vous parlez de show quand même. Il y a certains termes, vous parlez de show, vous avez parlé d'une une tentation, alors moi je voyais la version anglaise, donc je le raccorde selon mes notes, une tentation d'une forme de sensationnalisme aussi. Je me demandais si c'était, si au terme des 6 épisodes du corpus que vous avez analysé, si c'était vraiment ça qui ressortait également, et en écho au public, visiblement, que souhaite rencontrer Justice en France. Est-ce qu'on a des audiences? Parce que je n'ai pas vu d'audience en tant que telle. Est-ce que finalement Justice en France, pour le dire autrement, rencontre son public? Merci.
Je n'arrive pas à trouver de mesure d'audience. Et j'ai re-regardé ce matin et j'arrive pas. Alors, en fait, ça passe en deuxième partie de soirée sur France 3. Donc voilà, a priori, et c'est très peu, c'est très, c'est laissé très peu de temps en replay. On peut pas, on n'a pas beaucoup de temps en fait pour les regarder comment dire, de façon asynchrone. Donc du coup, j'ai pas de chiffres à vous donner parce que j'ai encore cherché tout à l'heure et je n'ai pas trouvé les mesures d'audience précises là-dessus. Alors, s'il y avait le début de votre question, je suis vraiment désolée, j'ai pas pu l'entendre.
Est-ce que ça va Voilà, désolé pour l'écho. Donc, Isabelle Huret, je ne vous vois plus à l'écran, mais en tout cas, je reformule très simplement. Il me semblait avoir compris dans votre présentation que vous parliez d'une forme de show ou de tentative de sensationnalisme. Je voulais juste m'assurer d'avoir bien compris, parce que ça me semblait parfois contradictoire par rapport aux images, aux dispositifs et donc au public rencontré ou pas, selon les audiences qu'on aurait peut-être un jour. Merci beaucoup.
Ah, merci beaucoup. Là, j'ai pu entendre. Alors, merci beaucoup pour votre question, pardon. Alors, en fait, pour l'instant, c'est pas du tout des émissions sensationnalistes, hein. Pour l'instant, c'est extrêmement pédagogique, c'est très très carré, etc. Le sensationnalisme, c'est le risque. En fait, c'est le risque dont ont peur une partie du champ de la magistrature. C'est le risque parce que c'est un programme qui est motivé, financé par des entreprises de production et des chaînes de diffusion. Et là où c'est pas vraiment du sensationnalisme, mais là où j'observe, il me semble, un glissement dans la façon de poser les questions, en fait, de la part du présentateur aux experts qui sont sur place, avocats et magistrats, c'est une façon un peu plus provocante de poser les questions. Ce qui fait que ça les met vraiment dans une posture de défense et plus dans une posture de justification et plus uniquement d'explication. Mais pour l'instant, non, c'est pas du tout un programme sensationnaliste. Je vous prie de m'excuser si ma présentation était pas claire. C'est le risque que ça présente en fonction d'un acteur qui n'est pas maîtrisé, qui est l'acteur médiatique, puisque le ministère donne son avis. Ensuite, il voit les émissions pour vérifier en fait la conformité avec le droit à la vie privée. Le droit à l'oubli, etc. Mais pour l'instant, les médias sont quand même ont une grande marge de liberté. Donc le sensationnalisme, c'est plus le risque. Et moi, ce que j'ai observé, c'est un glissement vers une logique un peu plus d'échange un peu plus punchy, si je puis me permettre ce terme. Au cours des émissions, où on voit que ça change en fait. Il y a un changement à partir de l'épisode 5, je dirais.
Well, my intervention was given at Mrs. Hanife. Well, first and foremost, well, hiya. I hope my voice was hearing very well. Just a note to be recapitulated in the first place. So, hiya, Mrs. Hanifi. Well, my intervention was given to you as addressing in your presentation was, for me, it's pertinent and very delighted today to giving this interventions, but I will be really precise as with the 2 point was very necessarily. First is mentioned in as your presentation that conclude that the question of the communication or the public communication, but now in our society or in our globe society, we're not talking just more about the public communication, but we talk about the popularism of communication. That is mentioned in the speech of Theresa May, Justin Trudeau, now under Rishi Sunak, and this is mentioned the manufacture communication in our society, and that will conclude in the second point of your presentation the point of the question of the East and the West, and this is the right places of our world. Now I'm Muslim, I'm Arab, or I'm phrases from Morocco, which is Arab country. The question of the West, the East and the West, give the huge comparative between the two categories, because the East see us as we all have the slavery market right now. We don't have in the process of development and etc. And this is mentioned in your media and your private communication. But we need to find a nexus point that concludes all this category and given the right person and gives the dialogue of fraternity. This is my intervention. Thank you.
Quick answer, please.
As the mention here in the jury, that you can provide me a brief answer about these two interventions. Thank you in advance.
But very brief indeed.
I had trouble hearing you very well. I apologize again. If I understand I think I understood your second intervention and about the dichotomy between the East and the West. If I have understood correctly, there's a lot of associations that are made with the Eastern identities, and you've mentioned slavery, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So when it comes to the identities, obviously the Arab, the Muslim, the East, they're very vast and they're very diverse. So, you know, a Turk is not like a Moroccan person, and a Moroccan person isn't like a person from Iran, Iraq, or Saudi Arabia. So what's happening is where there is a dichotomy that's created between an East and West that lumps these identities together. And even though the Muslim, the Middle Eastern, the Arab, Eastern identities are very vast and very diverse, they're lumped into one representation. And this has been found by the scholars, and they're represented as one lumped together identity within the British media that creates fear against these identities, or not wanting to cohabit with these identities, or not wanting to share with these identities. And the research in this area, especially in relation to the British press, is vast as well. So it's not just one or two research, it's quite a lot of literature we have in this sense. I don't know if I managed to answer your second or respond to your second intervention, but that was the only one I could hear properly. My apologies.
Okay, thank you very much. So we will take a little break, 10 minutes break, and we will be back after 10 minutes with Gergely French Landvai presentation, Catherine Gosn and Rumiana Konstantinova. Donc on va prendre 10 minutes de pause, vous restez en ligne. You will be with us online, so don't leave the session, the Zoom session. Et on va revenir dans 10 minutes pour la suite des trois présentations. With the next three presentations, Gergely Ferenc Landvai, Catherine Gosn, et Rumiana Konstantinova. So in 10 minutes we'll be back. Thank you.
Test. 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 Test.
So we will continue with the presentation. We are back. Gergely Ferencz-Lenvai, you have the floor for 15 minutes. So please respect the time because we are a little bit late. Okay, thank you very much. So the floor is yours.
il peut manier le jeu des lumières, il peut influer sur tellement de variables qui font qu'une personne, victime ou accusée, peut paraître attirante, repoussante, attisant de la compassion, de la méfiance, de la haine, etc. Et le résultat, en fait, ça peut aboutir à s'écarter de toute volonté d'éducation de la population par la pédagogie pour se concentrer uniquement sur l'attrait de la curiosité de l'audience sur la personnalité d'une des parties prenantes. Donc là, la conclusion, c'est que les yeux des caméras, finalement, ne sont jamais neutres et qu'il n'existe aucune législation nationale aujourd'hui qui ne pose d'obligation sur le montage qui sera fait de la captation des images. Il y a une parfaite liberté pour les chaînes de télévision sur le montage. Il faut faire évoluer cela. Il faut vraiment faire des codes de déontologie pour les journalistes. Il faut axer la formation des journalistes, mais aussi des magistrats pour qu'ils puissent intervenir devant les médias pour expliquer vraiment le fond de l'instance. Voilà, je vais m'arrêter là pour laisser le temps aux autres. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. Premièrement, je peux comprendre le français, mais je n'ai pas eu la chance d'apprendre le français académique. Après, au lycée, j'ai étudié en anglais, mais je peux comprendre le français. Donc, si vous avez des questions en français, je peux essayer de répondre. Let me share my screen. I am Balcı Arda, and thank you very much for the organizer here. Today I will discuss a recent analysis of the visual social media about migrant acquisition in Turkey. For Castells, the power to represent is no longer concentrated in the elites controlling the state, and mass media data is distributed as people use their smartphone to produce and circulate messages and of their own making. And Turkey has experienced profound demographic changes over the last decade due to various humanitarian crises from several regional conflicts. And then the refugee fallout from the Syrian conflict marked the most significant contribution to the demographic reconfiguration. Today, Turkey has the largest number of refugees worldwide, with around 3.6 million registered Syrian refugees, among with close to 320 persons of concern from other nationalities. So what kind of discourse is created through visual posts about refugees in Turkey demonstrate how regimes of truth are generatively produced through the social media communication and hence have the potential to impact the livelihood of the newly gathered populace. And accordingly, this study questions how visuals about incoming population are used as a mechanism of solidarity and marginalization, and how the visual media, social media posts on the newly incoming population to compare the imagery of the Syrian versus the other nationalities, as I am going to illustrate with the Ukrainian refugee acquisition in Turkey. Here we just statistical research department's results indicate that since they arrived in the wake of Syrian war, more than 2,000 Syrians have been granted Turkish citizenship through Turkey's 2009 naturalization law. Then later, Turkey has been destination for Ukrainian refugees fleeing the Russian invasion starting the end of February 2022. And then statistical research department results indicate that number of Ukrainian refugees in Turkey in September 2023 was right now 43,000, 6 million, among the 6 million refugees registered across Europe. In comparison, is to incoming population, they are not really similar in this way, but because the producer is using this kind of a comparison, right now it's just likely to be in my analysis. While the Ukrainian refugee case and the arrival of Ukraine in Turkey provided a basis for the comparison of criteria of migrant acquisition, and Syrians are known to escape from Assad regime and disseminated as an incorrect government in the Turkish government's back there as a result of civil war. Thereby, Syrians don't have a country to return to, while Ukrainians didn't flee their homeland and still own their passport. Although these differences between two conflicts and these two distinct populations of Nikobar exist, still invite for comparison. Well, in print media, Syrians under protection, they have some kind of position like in the representation as the one who is helped, the one that about whom is spoken. Scholar demonstrated that only 6% of the photographs in Turkish print media show Syrians are represented as ordinary people. Thus, asylum seekers are not assigned to a specific social group. Their representation as individuals on equal term with the audience without being reduced to their refugee situation is very rare. And for the case of Syrians in Turkey, there is an extra layer. In fact, it's important to note that Turkey maintains the geographical limitation of the 1951 Convention for Refugees, who arrived due to the event occurring outside of Europe. Yet Turkey also adopted a temporary protection regulation on October 2014, which sets out the right and obligation of those granting temporary protection in Turkey, thereby Syrians first considered to be a guest, then later some kind of a different status as a temporary. So this kind of a shift of the status is also some kind of activating right now. It's just the discussions, well, for a while in fact. So as a matter of fact, the politics of pity used to hold the boundary line regime between the Syrian and the host communities in Turkey from the start. While this approach activated the otherization, it used to legitimate citizen advantaged superior position vis-a-vis the Syrians. Thus, the politics of pity is distinguished from the politics of justice, which is based directly on action on the order of the merit. Instead, the former is just about the observation of the unfortunate, while those who don't share their suffering as the aren't presuppose. So here, the pity generalizer integrates the dimension of distance in comparison and compassion. But however, I contend that the entire migrant discourse based on the refugees' a sound, unproductive, and even detrimental status needs primarily deconstruct the discourse of pity. That this analysis, also proves that, and resurrect a politics of justice, in fact, to persuade on its claim that, in fact, we need to look for the, the contribution to well-being in Turkey if we are going to, this is the discourse is just claiming and different kinds of, a maneuver in the migrant acquisition. Here, we have the, a focus on the social media, and for the data collection, it's like an exploratory, analysis and qualitative one. I did a search, a keyword search, with the Syrian and then welcoming Syrian, and then it just also, I collected the still and moving images with the metadata, and also, there are some hashtags that I am using, and then through the research, I am also, combining with other, hashtags. So the analysis is a critical multimodal discourse analysis. And then so that the terms of migrant acquisition deliberated by the producer reflects a discursive diagram of symbolic boundaries between the citizen and incoming populations. So these symbolic boundaries activate legitimization of status and right to resources while provoking engagement and disengagement via group membership. I am first starting with the anti-Syrian acquisition in Turkey. Here there are some visuals assuming the display how Syrian lacks sophistication for adaptation to the Turkish community and its moral codes. For a Syrian, post used to, just adopt some kind of moralistic familial values in the face of misfortune and horror. On the other hand, post-displaying crowded gathering of the man in the public sphere tend to declare negative connotation for Syria in Turkey. Syrians here are portrayed as people who are away from morality, don't have a work ethic, and act against the public order, in contrast to piety evidencing photos of the pro-Syrian post before. And depicting here is just like they are half naked or the undershirt, exposing the shoulder and then the chest. They smoke hookah even in the most appropriate places, so that this visual has testimony while engaging most of the time. So that Syrian men are either idle or enjoying leisure time, manifesting misconduct according to the Muslim spiritual rituals and ignorance of the public manner. So such stereotypings argues that Syrian man doesn't have an ideal patriarchal nation qualities or productive features. So they are not engaged in a laborious pursuit with the impression that they enjoy their free time. In other instances, the images of women also are generally covered with headscarf and still doing activities not considered to be skillful. Here, this, well, images a little bit, there are some kind of parallelism with the Orientalist kind of, picturing of the Middle Eastern, portrait representation. Although Turkey is considered to be, in the global south, in fact, still this kind of hierarchical antagonistic, comparison still prevails in this, post that, with the anti-Syrian, sentiment. Well, here, for example, there are other kinds of, images that, I categorize like a disorder. It's just a testimony of the disorder and chaos. It's a widely used visual feature that chaos derived from the already presented trace of lack of order and balance in these images, so that this match of the figure on motifs are seeing, and people are carrying. It's just like some kind of cacophony is always making the risk to the communal order in a way. So the Edward Said says the Oriental's description project the Oriental is as fallen, childish, different, and deprived, in contrast to Europe and the West as virtuous and mature. So this kind of images has some connotation of the Oriental's picturing. Here, there is also some kind of a testimony of there is no civil war still in the Syria. So why the Syrian still here in Turkey? This one's a very famous one from the Fatih Koparan. It's some kind of a worldwide traveler is also online. So that he, it was a really, became a viral in Turkey, is saying that's like a testimony of the, for the Syria, is in fact, there is no civil war, and then why Syrian still in Turkey, so that, it's just visual witnessing of what is going on, is in fact, there's some kind of nightlife in Syria, and people are enjoying the, in fact, peaceful surroundings, and there's order. So there are also some kind of different kinds of documentaries saying that is a really good municipality there, so that the disorder that we are seeing in the anti-Syrian visual pose, in fact, it's like contradicting the what is going on in Syria. So that this some kind of replication and then replying to each other in a way. On the other kinds of the, when we are looking to the other pro-Ukraine, in fact, there is no anti-Ukrainian refugee post, I can tell. They are neutral, okay, for the, it's not a representable sample, but it's just like a purposeful sample. When we are, searching for the, the keywords, when they are looking to the, Ukrainian, visual portrayal, For example, we are seeing then the Ukraine in the public sphere of the Turkey, showing they are contributing to the communal well-being. For instance, disposal of Ukrainian women collecting garbage on the beach has been largely shared by the producers. But also, the starting, viral video was from a half Turkish, half Ukrainian, journalist saying that, is it likely that she's not leaving her homeland because, it's just she has a duty as a journalist and informing the people, so that this kind of d'accord. Here also there are lots of, comparing, visual social media, so that, likely that, one is likely that due to the donation as a militaristic, military duty, and then for the other ones, likely that the Syrian or the Middle Eastern, refugees is lining up for just fleeing the homeland, although it just they are most of the time escaping the persecution because of the civil war. These are of the distinction are not seen in the comparison. And also there are some kind of platform, changes. So the TikTok's kind of, the platform that this kind of deliberation is mostly, not, following some kind of argumentative line. And in fact, playing this kind of a comparison is just, I can tell that these platforms, affordances can change this kind of discourses. And there's also huge, monologues going on. It's like a citizen monologues, telling what they are feeling and expressing what they are thinking about, the migrant acquisition. And then they, so that this is the only way that they can express their views, in exchange to the, official, the state, discourse. So that while they are making a claim that it's just like a right now they feel like a second-hand citizen, because most of the economic fallout and then all of the the change going on in Turkey is likely that we cannot afford some kind of extra help for the refugees when there is such a huge economic crisis in Turkey, and then unemployment in the same time. So the conclusion is that, that I want to say is just, I contend that Syrian-Ukrainian comparison reveals that the deliberation diagram on the construction of the justice regarding the incoming population and our grassroots admission criteria rather than the official discourse, finding resonate that the antipathy toward immigrants is spreading through the perception that they cannot produce and has not contributed to the host community. So ableism is the primary discourse they are referring. Thereby, a different logic of legitimization should be grounded. Once the Syrian used to display and continues to show victimhood to achieve the legitimate ground for Turkish hospitality. In the visual social media realm, the legitimacy of Syrian status has been established on their ability to perform misfortune. Right now, anti-Syrian posts proves that their claim by giving the evidence of the Syrian capture in a happy moment, enjoying leisure time and being idle. So such a U-turn demonstrates that the politics of pity based on a performativity of misfortune doesn't count anymore on generating understanding and solidarity between the host communities and newcomers. The lack of meritocratic adjustment in the discourse and practice about inclusion of the livelihood provokes a negative considerations that don't predict a reconciliation around the conflicts of interest between the various publics. Although most of the deliberation can have a basis on the formal nationhood precepts and traditional capitalist logic of ableism and requirement of productive will rather than the consumption rate, the improvement effort for the social integration process needs to touch upon the problem of the integration communication on the legitimization of newly getting society. Thank you very much. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Good afternoon from Brazil, everyone. Bonjour ici du Brésil. J'ai choisi de faire ma présentation en anglais parce que, comme vous pouvez le constater, mon français n'est pas très, très bon. Donc, je vais présenter en anglais. Je vais essayer de parler lentement. And if I speak too fast, you can interrupt me at any time. So my name is Tailine Rijas. I am a PhD candidate in philosophy at the Federal University of Paraná, based in Curitiba, Brazil. And first I went to at the philosophy department as a student. My research explores the complexities of freedom of expression in the digital age, covering topics such as social media, conspiracy theories, and the broader digital landscape. So I am genuinely honored to engage in academic discussion of my paper with you today. And to begin, let's dive into Guy Debord, Society of the Spectacle, and its relevance in the digital age. So Debord's work aimed to refresh Marxist theory, providing insights and a practical examination of the ever-evolving spectacle society. My paper seeks to understand how Debord's theory can be applied to the digital era. So I will explore our globalized world characterized by mass communication and interactivity and its impact on the spectacle. This understanding is crucial for grasping the relationship between spectacle, information, and contemporary issues. So as we delve into this analysis, we will encounter the challenges traditional media faces today, such as disinformation, sensationalism, and conspiracy theories. So my presentation tries to shed light on these challenges within the modern media landscape. And to provide a practical perspective on these challenges and the ethical dilemmas they present, I'll introduce the Pizzagate case. So this conspiracy theory originated from leaked emails during Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign and serves as a kind of case study to analyze how individuals, political figures, and mainstream media engage with this phenomenon. So I'll also briefly explore potential strategies for traditional media outlets in dealing with conspiracy theories in the digital age. So in the first part, we'll scrutinize Debord's claim that contemporary society has become a collection of spectacles, where direct experiences have turned into representations. So in today's landscape, marked by intense competition among various media channels, including social media platforms, we see the creation of sensational content to capture maximum attention. So the spectacular society has extended into various aspects of modern life, driven by the digital realm. Internet-based economy promotes the high-tech spectacle as a means of promoting, reproducing, and selling commodities. With the proliferation of digital media, the media spectacle has become more diverse and contested. Moreover, citizens themselves contribute to the proliferation of the spectacle, particularly through social media, where individuals reinforce their preconceptions. Traditional media outlets have also lost some control over the spread of ideas among ordinary people. And traditional media outlets find themselves facing a dilemma, whether to ignore or discuss conspiracy theories. Ignoring such theories may alienate audiences and impede their role in providing accurate information. This decision is challenging because journalism serves as a source of guidance, education, and clarity, but it also relies on having an audience. So, in my opinion, we have a problem here. And to clarify this problem, I decided to pick an example. As I said, I choose the Pizzagate case to illustrate this new form of spectacle. So part 2 on Pizzagate case is a conspiracy theory that was created in the context of the 2016 US presidential election. In this debunked conspiracy theory, people claimed that direct emails from Hillary Clinton's campaign manager contained hidden messages suggesting child sexual abuse and human trafficking. Due to the emails mentioning pizza and pizzerias, this theory speculated that the central hub for these criminal activities was located, as per this belief, in the basement of a specific Washington, D.C. pizza restaurant. The rumors began with the hacking and subsequent release of thousands of internal emails exchanged among members of the Democratic Party, and specifically involving Hillary Clinton's chief strategist, John Podesta. After this, a diffuse online community began to deconstruct, interpret, and share insights into the emails, working primarily in a subreddit forum dedicated to Donald Trump. So these rumors gained strength as more citizens contribute their theories and interpretations. Then Pizzagate hashtag grew swiftly, and the ideas nested in Reddit began to spread to mainstream social networks like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. In my opinion, a Pizzagate episode serves as an example of a new form of spectacle that no longer relies on conventional media to sustain itself. Instead, this emerging spectacle can be promoted by ordinary citizens themselves. Now, every citizen has the potential to become a content producer. However, these new communication channels, especially through social media, are kind of immune to any strong culture or ethos, like the ethical standards of the press or journalistic ethics commonly found in most democratic countries. In the case of Pizzagate, the mainstream press ended up legitimizing the rumors created in their attempt to expose the facts behind the alleged story and to respond to the large and activity online dialogue surrounding the rumor. So although articles from New York Times and Snopes had reported that there was no evidence in support of the allegation, these revelations had, however, not prevented many from continuing to believe in the existence of a sordid scandal. Moreover, the debunking, as it's often the case in context of post-truth concussions, such as conspiracy theories, had the effect of further stoking the suspicions among the Pizzagate proponent. When it comes to conspiracy theories, such as the Pizzagate case, traditional media companies are confronted with a stark choice. So they must decide whether to ignore these theories entirely or dive deep into examining each detail. And this decision isn't easy. Firstly, ignoring these theories might alienate audiences who are drawn to alternative viewpoints, thereby potentially reducing their reach and influence. Secondly, and perhaps more significant, opting to ignore these theories can impede traditional media's fundamental role in society, the diligent investigation and verification of facts. By failing to engage with such theories, media outlets may inadvertently neglect their responsibility to provide accurate, well-researched information, which is paramount in maintaining the public's trust and ensuring informed discourse. On the other hand, delving into conspiracy theories can unintentionally make baseless claims more credible. When traditional media meticulously scrutinize each detail of a conspiracy theory and consistently debunks its inaccuracies, it can paradoxically reinforce the beliefs of conspiracy theories, further entrenching their conviction in the conspiracy. So in navigating what I call ethical challenge, traditional media companies must also consider alternative approaches. So as they grapple with the dissemination of conspiracy theories, one viable path is to strike a balance between in-depth investigation and responsible reporting. This involves carefully selecting which theories warrant scrutiny and which are best left unaddressed to prevent undue amplification. Furthermore, fostering a transparent and open dialogue with the audience is crucial. Media outlets should provide channels for feedback, fact-checking, and corrections, demonstrating their commitment to accuracy and accountability. Engaging with the public in this manner can help rebuild trust while encouraging critical thinking among the audience. Furthermore, media organizations can also work together with other trust institutions like universities or research groups to investigate these conspiracy theories thoroughly. When they work together, in my opinion, they can provide a more complete and unbiased analysis. So, in conclusion, my paper tries to highlight the enduring relevance of the Bohr theory in understanding contemporary issues. It emphasized that the need to adapt his theory to the specificities in the digital era. And digital revolution has assured is in new challenges and opportunities, and it is essential to navigate them to safeguard democracy in our digitally driven world. And dealing with conspiracy theories in the digital age requires a well thought out plan. Traditional media companies need to carefully think about how they react, be open and clear with the audience, and also work together with trusted organizations to ensure responsible journalism. Promoting media literacy, transparency, and diversification of perspectives in content creation can help media outlets uphold responsible journalism and maintain audience trust within the dynamic digital landscape. So to conclude, I'd like to express my gratitude for having me here today. If anyone has questions or thoughts, please feel free to share. And thank you for receiving me.
Est-ce que, juste, excuse-moi, Mihaela, je n'arrive pas à trouver la main pour lever le doigt, mais est-ce que je peux poser une question? Merci aux collègues pour leur présentation. J'étais très intéressée par la présentation de Taïline Ijaz, mais j'avais des problèmes de son, donc je n'ai pas réussi à tout t'entendre. Sorry, Taïline, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
I was
Hello.
very interested in your presentation, but I had some technical problems, so I couldn't hear everything. Just I would like to know if you have, can we read some of your papers maybe about what you presented today?
Yeah, I wrote this paper exclusively to this conference. So I sent the paper to the organizers. So I don't know if it'll be published, but if you want, I can send you to our email.
Oh, that's fine, thank you. But if it's published, I'll read
Thank you.
Your work. Thank you very much. Merci, Mihaela. Est-ce que je peux parler en premier, à moins que les collègues ne veuillent... voilà. C'est une question très intéressante et certains qui ont présenté un travail tout à l'heure ont parlé, hein, ont parlé de cette question de médiatisation, de sensationnalisme, etc. Pour la France, je peux faire référence à Alexandre Benalla, par exemple, qui est passé devant la commission d'enquête parlementaire. Alors, on n'était pas dans le cadre de la justice, hein, précisément, mais ça donnait une vision aux citoyens français de comment pouvaient être traités des raisons, enfin des scandales, hein, d'ordre politique, ou bien comment Fabrice Arfi du journal Mediapart a mis à jour l'affaire de corruption de Cahuzac, qui était alors ministre des Finances, euh, et qui a montré donc la corruption et puis le mensonge au niveau étatique. Alors ça reste au niveau de l'éclat médiatique, mais c'est quand même le fruit d'un long, long, long travail d'analyse, de recherche dont on ne peut pas se dispenser. Et à moins de verser dans le sensationnalisme, je ne vois pas comment les deux peuvent cohabiter de manière sereine. Voilà ce que je peux dire.
I don't think that is perfectly the question for my part, but I can tell that it's just, for example, for my situation, it's likely that the mass media is the pro-government media, so that it just there's no such how can I say, it's like a most of the mass media is because is following the government's the formal discourse. There is no chance for the citizen to reflect and express. It's like because it's authoritarian regime here in Turkey. So that social media is likely the only channel for the this kind of negative sentiments. In fact, can be well expressed here in Turkey. But the issue is that if there's no such kind of there's a problem of the representation and also the representation of the people in the judicial system, and also what is the right migrant acquisition, let's say for my situation or for my case, what is the so that discussion and deliberation about the justice should be also in my opinion take care of the the swarming activities, although they can be here really racist sometimes, and also this kind of logic of the ableism. But if they are not considerate, I believe that there is no way of reconciliation or some kind of common sense about this justice, about what is the migrant acquisition, what is the what should be the migrant, or then how we can have a livelihood together. So that it should be some kind of a mechanism right now that that we need to build in a way that the media justice deliberation can have a say on what is the the formal justice formation, probably. Well, that's my take.
Yes. So yeah, it's a important question because in digital age, the convergence of media representations and judicial process challenges our ability to differentiate between the spectacle portrayed in the media and judicial truth. So there's a line from the Guy Debord, and he said that what the spectacle fails to mention for 3 days does not exist. So it speaks of something else, and that's what from then on exists. So spectacle, he said, what exists and what does not exist. So the board's insights underscores the power of media narratives to shape our perception of reality. So distinguishing between media narratives and judicial truth, I think we must critically engage with the information presented, recognizing that the spectacle often prioritize immediacy and sensationalism. In contrast, the judicial process demands a rigorous evidence-based pursuit of justice. And I think it's our responsibility to navigate this disparity, but it's hard, it's not easy. I think we don't have like the right answer or the wrong answer, but we're all thinking about this. Merci beaucoup.
Bonne soirée, au
Au
revoir.
revoir.